This is practice exercise 9. I will set this one up in C# today. We want to find the sum of even and odd elements in an array. So given an array, we're going to sum the even elements to get a value, and we're going to sum the odd elements to get a different value. So given an array, write a program that sums the values of the even and odd positions separately. So let's look at an example. We've got an array here whose values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, indexes in programming languages start at 0. So even positions sum to 9. So that's one, let's see, even positions sum to 9. That 1, 3, and 5, yeah. So even positions 0, 2, and 4. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 5 is 9. The odd positions are going to sum to 12. So 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 3, and 5. So this is going to be 2 plus 4, which is 6, plus 6 is 12. So that's the idea behind this one. Let's look at a different one. So again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 different positions from 0 to 6. The even positions sum to 160. So even being 0, so 10 plus 30 is 40, plus 50 is 90, plus 70 is 160. Our odd positions, starting at 1, is 20, plus 40 is 60, plus 60 is 120. So those are the different values in the examples. So let's go ahead and set this up. I'm going to open Visual Studio. We're going to create a new project. You can do this in any kind of project you would like. You could do a console app if you wanted to print it to the screen. You could do a rich client app, display it on the screen in the rich client. You could do it as a background service, maybe save it to a database or write it to a file, however you want to do it. I'm just going to do this as a simple class library just because it's lightweight, easy to test, easy to use. So we'll say next. And this is going to be sum, even, and odd elements. I'm going to leave this in my trusty C code delete me folder. We'll leave the solution name the same for now. For these little exercises, our project name and our solution name will be the same. We'll say next. I'll leave it as the newest version, and we will create. All right, so now that we've got that, we also need a test project. So I'll right click on the solution. We'll say add new project, and I'm going to choose one of the test projects. So it looks like the one I've used last, or I used InUnit last. I used XUnit before that. I'm going to use MS Test since it seems like it's been a while since I used MS Test. So let's call this acceptance tests. And then we'll leave everything the same. I'm not worried about the settings. We'll leave those as the default. All right, so now that we've got this set up, I am going to need a dependency from acceptance tests to sum, even, and odd elements. So let's right click on the dependencies under acceptance test, add project reference, click on sum, even, and odd elements so we know about that class library, say OK. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and rename test. So this is sum, even, and odd elements tests. Let it rename it. And this will be example 1. So let's go ahead and head back to our README. So example 1, we've got an array that has these values. So let's start with that. So C# syntax, we're going to need to start with either the definition of the array, the data type, or var. I'll go ahead and do the data type just so that we're explicit. So this is a 32-bit integer array. We don't use the array indices here in C#. And then these need to be square brackets in the C# world. All right, so there's our array input. That looks good. Let's head back in. We want the even positions to sum to 9 and the odd to sum to 12. So this is going to be interesting because we're going to need to create either 2 functions or a single function that returns 2 values. So that's kind of interesting to do. So we'll say, let's see, even sum is 9 and the odd sum is 12. Sorry, AI, you guessed wrong. All right, so we've got that set up. There's our outputs that we're expecting. Let's actually call these expected, just so we're more clear. So the expected even sum and the expected odd sum. All right, so now we need to actually do the addition here. So our value, so first off, we're going to need some object. So again, some class, something that's going to sum elements in an array, and it's going to return us the sum of those. So it's an array aggregator, an array calculator. Either one would work. I haven't used the word aggregator in a while, so let's use aggregator. Seems like an interesting word. So this will be our aggregator, is a new array aggregator. Now we're going to get the result. So interestingly here, I could do 2 different methods. So I'll show a couple different ways to do this. I could say the var even sum is aggregator.sum even elements, and then I can pass it the array. And then I could say odd sum is sum the odd elements, and do those as 2 separate method calls. However, given the scope of what they're trying to do in this method, they kind of want you to do everything at once. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to create some object that gives us both back. So we'll say sum, let's call it the summary. I like the pun. Yeah, sum summary. is going to be aggregator.sum the array. So we're going to tell it sum the elements in the array, and it's going to give us back a sum summary. So I'm going to go ahead and put the explicit type here so we know it's a new type. So we're going to end up creating a couple of types here. And then let's do our assertion. So we'll say assert our equal, our expected even sum should match the sum summary even sum. And then we'll do the same thing, assert our equal, expected odd sum should match the summary odd sum. So this sum summary is going to have two properties, one for an even sum, one for an odd sum. That looks pretty good. Let's go and copy this down now and do example 2. So example 2 has different values in the array. And 160 and 120 are our expected sums. Evens 160, odds 120. Excellent. Everything looks pretty good there. So our tests are all set up and ready to go. We now need to create the actual objects and actual classes. So let's start with the array aggregator. So I'm going to rename class 1 in the class library project. So we'll just use that one. Let's go and format everything. And now we need a using statement. So we'll need to add that using in. Excellent. That looks pretty good. Now we need a method sum and we need a class sum summary. I'm going to start with the class sum summary. I feel like I'm in Mary Poppins. So we'll right click here, say add class, and I can just paste. You don't need to add the .cs. It'll do that for you. It knows it ends in a CS. We do need this to be a public class. So that goes away. And now we need sum to come back. So let's do control period. It'll generate the method for us. Even sum, we'll do control period to generate a property. Odd sum, we'll control period to generate a property. Excellent. So everything's looking pretty good there. Now let's go ahead and we need to do a couple of things to get the class finished setting up these two classes here. Let's start with array aggregator. Let's look and see what we've got generated. So sum summary. Let's just turn this into a regular method that just throws an exception. And it's going to return a sum summary. So you're going to need to create that object. Now let's do sum summary. Let's take a look at this class. Clean up some things. So this is just simply going to hold on to these values. So let's clean this up since we can kind of treat this as immutable. So let's change this into a record type, and we're going to change these properties, even sum, odd sum. All right, there we go. So that really cleans this class up. It's just a simple class that'll have an even sum property, an odd sum property, and it's got a constructor. To create one of those inside the code here, you'll say var sum summary equals new sum summary. And you will give it the even sum, 23, and the odd sum, 24. So that's how you'll create one of these, and then you'll just return that sum summary at the end. Your job now is to replace this code with the actual code that's going to work. So let's just verify everything. We'll run our tests really fast, make sure everything's working there. Both of these fail, excellent. And we're getting our exception as we typically would expect. So here's our test. Once again, we've got everything set up for our test. Make sure you've got all that code. Pause the video here if you need to. Make sure you've got everything in place. Then we've got our array aggregator. This is where you're going to write your code. We've got a little helper class sum summary. You shouldn't need to change anything here. Everything you need to do should be inside the array aggregator's sum method. Good luck.